Friday, November 8th, 2019, Maneco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. So there's the old saying that the best way to hide is in plain sight. And I think Jim Rickards has done a great job of doing that, being that he works for the CIA. He admitted that in his latest interview with London Rio. The interviewer said, "Oh, you've worked for the CIA in the past." He didn't deny that. So I take it that Jim Rickards is attached to the CIA. And I'm not trying to bash Jim Rickards. I'm just trying to look at the facts here and some of the stories surrounding the famous options trades that were put on United Airlines and American Airlines just before September 11th, 2001. And I've got quite a few of his books. And I've got this one here, The Death of Money. And in one of the sections of this book, it's entitled The Terror Trade. Starts on page 19. He talks about those trades. And he comes to the conclusion that maybe the 9/11 report didn't look closely enough into who was involved, that they didn't find any, how can I say, clear evidence that the terrorists were involved in that trade, right? But it rang bells in my mind, even when I first read this book years ago, that he didn't even mention Alex Brown brokerage, which is an institutional brokerage, which was bought by Bankers Trust a few years before 9/11, and then Bankers Trust was bought by Deutsche Bank, I think, in 1998. He doesn't mention that the institutional investor that was involved in some of these trades was Alex Brown, Deutsche Bank, and that prior, up until 1998, the head of Alex Brown was a guy called Buzzy Krongard. So who is Buzzy Krongard? Well, here we go. Wikipedia. Alvin Bernard Krongard, born 1936, was executive director of the Central Intelligence Agency. He was appointed by George Tenet on March 16th, 2001, right? He worked for the CIA there until 2004. Prior to that, it says here, a long-time consultant to DCI's Krongard joined the agency full-time in February 1998, following a 29-year business career. During his private sector career, he served as CEO and chairman of the board of Alex Brown and Sons, right? So I will also put in the link below an article from globalresearch.ca. It was actually written in October of 2001 by Michael Rupert, going a little more into detail about those options trades, right? I've done a little bit of research today. I found a website called 911myths.com, and one of the reasons they give for all the speculation not being really true, and that there's nothing suspicious about these options trades, is this one here. It says the 9/11 Commission report mentions this issue in its notes on to Chapter 5. And I quote, it says, a single US-based institutional investor with no conceivable ties to Al-Qaeda purchased 97% of United Airlines puts on September 6th as part of a trading strategy that also included buying 115,000 shares of American on September 10th. So this institutional investor was Alex Brown, right? Deutsche Bank, that's what we know. One thing I would say, having worked in the markets and having worked in the options market for 20 years, an institutional investor usually deals for customers or clients, right? So let's say Alex Brown puts a trade in options, and the Alex Brown account with the CBOE is, let's say, account 223, right? So they do the trade in the exchange for Alex Brown, but once the trade comes into the Alex Brown back office, that's allocated to the client account, right? So I wonder if the 9/11 report looked into that. The other thing that I did is actually look into the 9/11 report. So I found here on the notes to chapter 5. So this is at the back end of the report. This is on page 499. So I wanted to read. I didn't want to take 9/11 myths comments for granted. So here we go. It's note 130, chapter 5, right? Page 499. So this is not even in chapter 5. These are notes to it. And it says, highly publicized allegations of insider trading in advance of 9/11 generally rest on reports of unusual pre-9/11 trading activity in companies whose stock plummeted after the attacks. Some unusual trading did in fact occur, but each such trade proved to have an innocuous explanation. For example, the volume of put options investments that pay off only when a stock drops in prices surged in parent companies of United Airlines on September 6th and American Airlines on September 10th. Highly suspicious trading on its face. Yet, further investigation had revealed that the trading had no connection with 9/11. A single US-based institutional investor, there we go, Alex Brown, Deutsche Bank. By that time, Deutsche Bank had bought Bankers Trust, so it was part of Deutsche Bank. So I'll go on. A single US-based institutional investor with no conceivable ties to Al-Qaeda purchased 95% of UAL puts, United Airlines puts, on September 6th. And this is where, at first, I kind of bought into it, but then I read it again, and I thought, this is not a trading strategy. So let me read here. As part of a trading strategy that also included buying 115,000 shares of American on September 10th. And so what's the problem here? When you read it like that quickly, they bought puts, but they also bought the shares, so that nets itself out. But then I read it again and I looked at the dates. The puts, the dates and the security that they bought, right? On September 6th, it was United Airlines puts, right? So, and on September 10th, it was American Airlines shares. So they've got nothing to do with each other. Yes, they're airline stocks, but if you wanted to do a strategy, and I've done thousands of option strategies for my clients, and I can tell you if a client tells me, I want to buy some treasury futures, but I want to protect by buying some put options. So I'll quote the strategy. It's called Delta Hedged. I'll quote the strategy right then and there, and I'll do it all together. I'm not going to buy puts in treasuries for my client and wait another 4 days another 4 days to buy the futures, right? So this is not part of a strategy. I'll tell you what it would be if it was a strategy. They would have bought the United Airlines puts on September 6th and bought shares in United Airlines and not in American Airlines, and they would have done it the same day. So that's suspicious to me. The other thing I would say, did the 9/11 report, the people that conducted that report, that investigation, did they ask the institutional investors if those trades were for different clients, right? Because let's say Alex Brown, one of their clients, bought these shares of American Airlines on September 10th, and This client had nothing to do with the other client that bought the puts 4 days before, right? As a whole, though, Alex Brown did the trades. But as I've said, brokers, they hardly ever do trades for themselves. And I know that because I worked as a broker. I only traded for my clients. Of course, my brokerage firm's account with the exchanges are that brokerage firm's account. But once the trade is brought into our back office or settlement, it's allocated to different accounts. So what does Wikipedia say? Controversies, right? Krongard's name was brought up in conjunction with investigations into suspected 9/11 related insider trading because of timely Wall Street trades made through the investment bank he used to head, Alex Brown. And then it mentions what I've just said here. A single US-based institutional investor with no conceivable ties to Al-Qaeda purchased 95% of UAL puts on September 6, 2001 as part of a strategy that also included buying 115,000 shares of American on September 10th. I can tell you that's not a strategy. As an option specialist, you don't put on a strategy 4 days apart. You put it together, right? So that's suspicious. So it's up to you to decide whether there is some kind of, how can I say, suspicion there to suspect Alex Brown, Deutsche Bank, right? And granted, Buzzy Krongard was not working at Deutsche Bank at the time. He was at the CIA. But of course, he was the CEO and chairman until 1998 when he left, right? Joined the CIA just before 9/11 on March 2001. Maybe Jim Rickards didn't do his homework, that he didn't mention Alex Brown in this book, and Buzzy Krongard, who used to work or probably still works for the CIA. As I said, once a CIA asset, always a CIA asset, right? If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, share this video far and wide. Don't forget also to hit this little notification bell above to be notified of all my new videos. And you can also follow me on Twitter, Steemit, and on DTube. I wish you all a great day. Take care. Bye.